Hello, USC fans. Connor Morrissette and Chris Trevino were here on campus after the Trojans' 10th spring practice of 2024. I believe it's number 10, Chris. It's time for instant analysis, another early morning practice. We saw at about 5:15 this morning, Jacoby Lane, USC sophomore receiver, walk out and give a Tom Brady, "Let's go!" That was one of the highlights for me, and we had some recruits on campus as well, Chris. What were your observations?
Wait, is that a Tom Brady thing?
Well, I don't know if you can trademark "Let's go," but Tom Brady
Okay.
does the high pitch "Let's go," and Jacoby Lane sounded just like him. I tweeted it. If you want to hear audio of the scream, it's on Twitter.
I didn't realize that, and yes, very loud. Like you're not underselling it how loud he was. He could have woken up everyone in 3 blocks of campus. But yes, very loud, a lot of energy. It seemed like all the coaches were in a good mood today. I think it's because this is the last 5:30 a.m. practice for them, for us. So let's all celebrate. Very cold, but yes, recruits were in attendance. Some interesting names, some big names as well. Christian Thatcher, the 4-star Nevada linebacker who USC is pretty up there for, and linebacker will be a big piece of the 2025 class. So trying to do more work with some West Coast linebackers. He was there with some of his teammates from our review out of the Las Vegas area. And then the big name out of Hassan Longstreet, the 2025 quarterback out of Corona Centennial, the number 1 prospect in California, a top 5 signal caller in the 2025 rankings, and a top 50 prospect. So obviously USC has a QB commit in Julian Lewis, but they're still looking at some options. They're still keeping some relationships open, and Julian Lewis is still taking visits, so it's only fair that USC does the same. So just an interesting visitor this morning. Woke everyone up like, oh, Hassan Longstreet's here. He has not committed anywhere. He's actually supposed to commit later this month. So
April 14th.
April 14th.
5 days.
5 days, yeah, coming up here. So, you're probably not going to be to USC. Doesn't even have an offer. But, just keeping the relationship open, Connor. That's what recruiting is all about. Do not burn bridges. Do not burn bridges. Do not, fail to set up bridges too when you need to. So USC was caught flat-footed last year QB recruiting. Didn't sign a QB in the high school class. So just want to build some options, Connor.
I did think it was interesting that Hassan Longstreet, who is set to commit in 5 days, comes to the 5:30 a.m. practice. Luke Huard dapped up, who I believe to be his father, and it seemed like the relationship was good. Clearly, without an offer, USC has a lot of work to do, but I wonder if he'll still commit April 14th, and even if he does, maybe USC will stay in the game a little bit. The elephant in the room is Juju Lewis's recruitment. If he opens things up, that changes everything for USC, and of course, if he stays, then Hassan Longstreet obviously won't be a Trojan, at least in the near future. So definitely something to monitor, and if we have any more updates, we'll follow through with them. Speaking of quarterbacks, Miller Moss spoke today. You heard from him, Chris. He shouted out Marcellus Williams, the early enrollee from St. John Bosco at cornerback, as one of the guys who's impressed him so far in camp. What else stood out to you?
I asked him about Woody Marks just because I feel like I've been watching Woody Marks a lot, and he came to USC with a reputation for being a really, really good pass catcher, over 200 career receptions during his time at Mississippi State. And I asked Miller what stood out about him. He's got really natural hands is what he said. It's hard to see that trait in running backs. Obviously you see it more these days with the way offenses have gone, but he said it's really nice to have a guy with such good hands running out of the backfield. So I imagine Woody Marks is going to get plenty of opportunities and plenty of looks from Miller Moss, assuming he's the QB1 as we all do, out of the backfield this season. So just wanted to ask him about that. And then overall, he said he thinks that the offense is starting to hit their stride here in spring camp, which, that's something that's ongoing. There's a new quarterback, no more Caleb Williams, a new signal callers there. Obviously, in the Holiday Bowl, Miller Moss and that offense seem to be hitting their stride pretty well. So just finding that consistency, and obviously every game isn't going to be a 6-touchdown pass game for Miller Moss, but they can just have a low floor in that offense. That's the best thing for this team, and looks like they're finding that consistency and really hitting their stride here to end camp, and I'm excited to see what it looks like in the spring game.
No one's going to come out and say it, but we heard from Luke Huard today, too, the quarterback coach, and a few other offensive players. It's so clear that Miller Moss is QB1, and Jaden Maeva, while he's progressing well, I don't think has done enough in a very short period of time, so I can't blame him to really, truly challenge Moss for that top quarterback spot, because if he had been, I think we'd hear a little bit more buzz, a little bit more from the coaches, a little bit more from the players, like, don't forget about Jaden, he's really pushing, don't forget about Jaden, and instead of him pushing, it's more like he's getting comfortable here, and he's getting the flow of the offense, and he's playing well. But I think the experience that Moss has in the offense and what he did in the Holiday Bowl, his leadership, his competitiveness, we were hit over the head with that today, just how great of a leader he is, how well he competes. So not exactly breaking news here, but that's probably my biggest takeaway. I'm going to write it up for the site after this. It seems like Miller Moss has that spot locked down, which is what we expected. Jonah Manheim, also talked today, Chris. Takeaways from what you heard from him.
Just like with Miller Moss talking about the offense and, them hitting their stride, seems like Jonah is the same way. Obviously, he's learning a completely new position, but as Lincoln Riley mentioned earlier this week, he is further along than Riley expected him to be. Jonah's a smart guy. He's obviously a veteran. He knows what he's doing. He learned under Brett Nealon. They had one-on-one sessions. Coach Henson has been working with him one-on-one, getting him ready for his debut as a center this season. So everyone is putting a lot into Jonah Manheim being the center for this season in the Big Ten season, and it sounds like he's hit the ground running. He's a team captain. He's moving up in a leadership role, even more so this year, just because, he's back. He is a team captain from last year. He has to be more vocal in general with a center position, getting used to calling out the Mike linebacker, making the calls, the protections, the slides, whatever. He's doing all that, so obviously you're being more vocal on the field. You're going to be more vocal off the field as well. So that's interesting to hear from him, and just his growth. And that's what spring camp is for: learning a new position, getting comfortable in something maybe you didn't do the year prior. And Jonah Manheim is crushing it, it sounds like, at center. So again, excited to see what that looks like in the spring game as well.
Even Lincoln Riley acknowledged it on Saturday in his Zoom press conference. Jonah's further along at center than he anticipated, so really, really encouraging there. Luke Huard, the other cool thing, he talked about how Luke Huard and Miller Moss played pickleball against, I believe, Jacoby Lane and Roy Gage, who's a walk-on quarterback, and Miller and Luke Huard won. Luke said that he was only responsible for 2 of the points, and Miller had 9 of the points. He also talked about just the overall state of the quarterback room. Nothing really you could sink your teeth into, but I thought that was funny. The guys have been playing pickleball. And then the last guy we heard from Chris today, Carson Tarchi, who he said it's been a little over a month since his anniversary from when he switched over from linebacker to tight end. And someone said, happy anniversary. That got a laugh out of the group. Takeaways from what he had to say. I asked him about the quarterback competition, didn't get a ton from him there. He mentioned how Miller Moss in the summer, when they were going on a run, was really pushing him, and that leadership really shone through, and they weren't on the football field when they were running. Anything else?
Yeah, Carson's an interesting guy. Obviously he transferred in from Utah as a linebacker, did not play his first year because he was injured recovering, and then moved over to tight end last spring. So it's been an interesting journey for him. Still didn't seem like he was quite comfortable with that switch. Obviously, he played high school. He played, tight end and running back in high school, in addition to linebacker. But didn't seem like he was fully comfortable playing it at a college position last year. Kind of still learning it on the fly. And then we saw that big catch he made in the Holiday Bowl. Got him some confidence, got him a little spark, and I think that's going to carry him in what could be a big spring game for him, because the tight end room is banged up a little bit. They're going to have a lot of depth in the summer, getting late back at some point during the season. But Carson Tarchi and Kate Eldridge have a big opportunity this spring. They're getting all the reps out there. I know Joey Olsen is impressed as well, but Carson is kind of the oldest guy in that room. The only guy who's really played, the only guy who has a reception right now with Lake down. So Carson's going to have a big opportunity in the spring game to show, hey, I can be a weapon this year. You saw what I can do, even though it was one play in the Holiday Bowl. You see what I'm capable of. So that's kind of what his journey has been, building this more confidence throughout the spring. And again, a guy I want to see what they're going to do in the spring game. And he also said he did not play pickleball, so that was
didn't get the invite.
Didn't get the invite. Do you play pickleball? You look like a pickleball guy, Connor.
I dabble. I'm not great.
But you have played.
Have played.
Okay. I don't know anything about pickleball. I'm not good with sports that involve a racket.
Good to know. Chris, we'll wrap it up with this. Spring game 11 days away. Last year, the offense on the first series scored in 3 plays. Should have told us that the defense was in trouble, but whatever. Are they going to score in 3 plays again in 11 days? Or are we going to see some defensive resistance?
I think we'll see a little defensive resistance. It is a spring game, so,
Yeah, but you remember those 3 plays, man. It was like, here we go again. And then I asked Lincoln Riley about it afterwards, and he got all mad. But, hey, you can only go by what you see.
Well, I'll give him double plays. Six. I'll give him double. That's an improvement. That's a 50% improvement.
He's Chris Trevino. I'm Connor Morrissette. This has been Instant Analysis. We'll be back Thursday. Thanks so much for joining us. Stick with USCFootball.com for full coverage of everything USC. That includes basketball and football, baseball as well. We got you covered over there. Stay tuned.